Hi everyone, Charles here. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. It's now over 2 months since we joined with hundreds of other purpose-led businesses to share the Food People Purpose campaign back in July as part of Unite on Purpose. We are champions of change driven every day by our intent to shift the future of food and drink by harnessing the power of trends. As part of that campaign, we also launched the Food People in Conversation With, which was all about talking to other businesses, brands, personalities, and entrepreneurs to find out more about why they do what they do. Since then, we've had so many fascinating conversations as part of the interviews that we've conducted, and there are so many more recorded that will be released over the coming weeks. To celebrate Unite on Purpose, we've pulled together the purpose highlights of the Food People in Conversation With episodes. So enjoy these thought-provoking and inspirational excerpts from our most recent In Conversation With episodes. How are you shifting the future of food and drink? What is the co-op purpose, and how do you and co-op colleagues live that purpose day to day?
I find it quite interesting. Last year I heard our CEO, Steve Morrell's, talk about it in the most eloquent way. But to summarise, our vision really is about cooperating for a fairer world. We're about, as a business, we believe that it's the small acts of cooperation all add up to make a really big difference. And it's about helping to serve the communities in which, we've got the privilege to have our shops.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of our brand strapline is co-op, it's what we do. And that's really what it's about. It's an ethos that runs right through our company. We're owned by 4 million members, and each of whom have a voice to say how we run our organisation, which is quite unique. And we talk to our members on a regular basis because they help us stay true to what we do. Obviously, it's important we deliver strong commercials like any other retailer, but actually the more successful we are, the more we can actually return that into our communities. And you can see that through our membership program, where we have the 5-in-1, where customers can have 5% off their own brand products that they buy, but 1% goes back to their communities to make a difference. The pandemic has really highlighted, how I've said before, how amazing our colleagues are. And, we've had some fantastic stories and activities of colleagues going above and beyond what any individual do. So, helping the vulnerable in terms of their shopping, like I said, but actually, we've raised monies to provide school meals in our academies. And we've provided 5 million meals through Fair Share for those who are kind of feeling very vulnerable and going hungry. Yeah. And that's one of the things that, we are really proud of. You have to look at a wider scale of where people feeling the impacts and where can we make that difference.
What do you see as some of the great opportunities that perhaps emerged out of this that are untapped, that you'll be in a position to deliver against from a consumer perspective? Where do you think perhaps some of those opportunities lie?
I think, with our focus at the moment on convenience, we know that we've got to create value for money, because we know that, it's going to be challenging times ahead, because the new norm, we don't know, but we know that there is going to be some challenges from an economic perspective. So within a looming recession, that is going to bring customers to, it's going to hit customers' pockets. So we need to be able to deliver that great quality for them at the value and the price that they need it. We also know that there's probably 1 or 2 platforms where we'll continue our journey to really elevate, but 2 of them to talk to you about is obviously sustainability. And in our research, it's highlighting that sustainability remains very much the centre of the issues that consumers want retailers and manufacturers to address. And it's our belief as we come out of the crisis and the resulting recession, there inevitably will be a focus on price, but there will also be a recognition of how small and fragile our world is and how quickly challenges in faraway places ripple into our communities.
Yeah.
A new mantra that we think will emerge, hopefully will follow, will be, we need to reduce our carbon, we need to protect the planet, and we need to be saving lives. And, as much as we care for communities locally, we recognise the need to look after communities who are in our supply chain.
Yeah.
We produce our food globally, and they unfortunately, at the moment are probably the ones that are most exposed. And this links back to what I described earlier, the future of food strategy, where we recognise the need to kind of look beyond and how we produce and source our food. The second area that, that I think the pandemic has really escalated in people's mindset is health.
Yeah.
And, it's no surprise that, over the last number of months, consumer focus has been on household and personal hygiene products. But I think it's also elevated a new high around the mindfulness of consumers themselves are likely to want to become more healthy as a result of it. And therefore, similar opportunities exist to strengthen our proposition for healthier diets and lifestyle. We know people are exercising more. We know they're eating more scratch cooking and probably have more time to focus on their health. So we have a role to play to make healthy food affordable and accessible. And that means we need to focus on the design of our products, but also the breadth of our ranges. So moving the dial from potentially more fully prepared to assembly to scratch cooking. And as you've alluded to, Charles, in some of your updates recently, the role that plant has in the future. And that's only going to continue to grow, and it's very much focused in our plans.
You mentioned ethics and quality a few times. If you could, identify kind of 5 things and say lockdown loaves is going to be about this and this and this and this, what would those kind of key words or key messages that would make up the purpose of lockdown loaves, what would they be?
If I were to describe it, what I wanted it to be in 5 words, or what I wanted people to think of when they thought of it, it would definitely be like locally sourced, ethical, sustainable, family orientated. I can't think of a 5th word, but that kind of vibe. Just everything. Like, I don't want any negative thoughts around it. I want it all to just be done the right way, properly.
And how do you see what the journey that you're now embarking on as, doing your bit to shift the future of food and drink?
I think that in a sense we've almost been forced into it, and you have to kind of, because no one knows what's going to happen. There could be another spike and everything could collapse again, which is terrifying. But with regards to shifting the food world forward, everyone's had to adapt. And I think we've adapted in the sense of it's almost a safety net for me personally. Because I didn't know what was going to happen with the hospitality world. Still don't. It's so unpredictable. So if anything, for me personally, this has been a safety net, because I know that I can kind of make it adapt if there was a second peak and keep it open, because I started it during lockdown. So I'm very fortunate to have had the opportunity and the means to be able to start something like this in a time like this. But I don't think there's a better time to do it, to be honest. I've always wanted to, but this has kind of pushed me off the cliff a little bit.
Just giving you the impetus to do it.
Yeah.
How important is that kind of connection between you here in the UK and friends, associates, communities back in India? How important is that to kind of feeding your interest and excitement and learning from what you do?
It's very important, Charles, because they are the teachers I have. If I don't go immerse myself in that culture, I will only be scratching the surface. I wouldn't know it properly. And I'm one different person who likes to dwell deep and want to learn everything and everything. I'm let's say, when it comes to knowledge, I'm quite greedy. I want to dig deep. So I connect with people at all levels, as I said, and I want to know more and more. So especially while researching Rajasthani food, I have been talking to a lot of housewives, because there are some amazing Rajasthani, very, very well-known chefs in India, no doubt about it. But learning from housewives, and also not necessarily the rich households, but people from villages who have had very basics to live with, they are coming up with some incredible stories and different types of food they cook. So one of the lady I called just out of the blue, and I got connected through a blogger, and I asked her that, because you live in a dry and arid land, and what is the source of life, and what is one go-to ingredient for you? And her answer was lentils. And I know lentil is quite big in India, but the way she explained it, She could make a starter with lentil, a main course with lentil, a middle course with lentil, a dessert with lentil. So she had her life wrapped around lentil.
Amazing.
So I immediately got glued on because I think lentil is definitely the biggest source of protein in India. I get it. But to be able to do so many things I didn't know. And I landed up learning a fantastic dessert, which is made out of lentil from her. That is going to be on my menu now. And I'm exploring still. I'm exploring more. And then another thing which she taught me was her husband is a meat eater and she's a vegetarian, and they don't have an oven at home. And she cooks whenever she has finished cooking. The ashes which are left in the charcoal fired stove.
Yeah.
She has got a kind of hole dug in her courtyard. She throws those ashes there, and because she doesn't want to touch meat too much, so she wraps the pieces of chicken in roti with a little bit of marinade or spices.
Yeah.
And then wraps it in either banana leaf or there's another called jackfruit tree. The leaves are thicker. And then wraps it in a jute bag, puts a lot of water on it, soaks it, and then leaves it on those ashes and covers it. And the next morning when her husband is going for work, he knows where his lunch is. He digs it open and takes it. And he opens his packet and eats it whenever he wants to eat. So I had heard the stories of, this is called khad murg or khad khargosh. That's the name they use it in the local language, which means meat cooked in a hole. And I didn't know that people could do this at home. I'd heard chefs doing a big carcass and all things like that.
Yeah.
But when she told, I couldn't stop laughing. I thought, wow, this is ingenious. She's very, very good.
It also sounds absolutely delicious as well, I have to say. Amazing. And what was it? Can you tell us what the dessert is? Are you able to tell us what the dessert is?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually a kind of pudding, right? The way we make pudding with rice. So it's made with lentil. So she would use jaggery, so the raw sugar, and milk. And she uses chana lentil in this, and she cooks it for hours to end, to be honest, in that. And eventually the grain of the lentil totally gets broken down in that. So she uses some of it as a sauce, and then some she takes it out, reduces further, mixes more dried sugar or brown sugar into it, and makes dumplings out of it, fries it, dusted in rice flour, and then puts it back in this sauce. So you get a kind of 2-3 textures of lentil in one go.
Yeah.
So and obviously I'll add a few more things to make it more presentable. But I thought that was just ingenious. I never made anything like that, so it was beautiful.
And just two examples there of how you can take, quite raw inspiration from, rooted in, communities, and bring that back, interpret it, modernize it, and bring it to your menu. That's
absolutely,
really, really inspirational. What does it mean for you to run a kind of hospitality business that's driven by the kind of some of the purpose and values that you've talked about? What does that mean for you?
I think my life is hospitality, to be honest. It's obviously everybody wants to make money, so so do we as a business. But also to be able to step up and give people good time, help them make memories, be part of their lives. What makes me very happy is when somebody is celebrating their birthday or wedding anniversary with us, which is a lot with us, we're very grateful for that. But it really humbles me because they would have had so many different choices in the world to pick up different places or go for different experiences, but they chose to be with us. So it's basically, I feel grateful that they chose to be in my company or in our company, in my restaurant's company, rather than being anywhere else. And that's very humbling for me. I always make it a point to go and greet them and spend some time with them, and if possible, learn from them. So recently I met a couple who were married for 70 years. And I had gone there only for 5 minutes, but I landed up spending an hour with them, talking about their lives and what they have been through. I met them in my restaurant in Maro in Sindhu, and the gentleman was in British Army, retired, And he started talking about his experiences of World War II. His wife worked as a nurse. They were both retired. They live in Marlow locally. So it was beautiful to connect to them. I had seen them eating in my restaurant a couple of times before, but never had chance to connect. But this opportunity connected me to them forever now. So whenever I see them now, it's a big smile on my face. It feels like I'm meeting my family.
Yeah.
I think that's a very special thing.
How do, you know, being rooted in the types of sort of values and purpose that you've got, how does it directly affect your kind of focus on some of the broader topics like health and communities and sustainability, and, you know, perhaps even the next generation of chefs?
So I've always been very finicky about health part of it. The food is the healthy part of it. And if you know, I'm going to repeat somebody else's word, but a friend of mine who's a journalist, he said that if we ate well, we wouldn't need the medicine.
Yeah.
Because we don't eat well, that's why we have medicine, and it's true. So when I studied hotel management, food and nutrition was part of it, and I was quite intrigued by it, and I focused quite a lot on that. And what I believe that when we fall ill, it's an inflammation of some kind, and it's an indication from the body that something is not going right, and we start popping pills in our mouth, and we become habituated, and we continue to pop pills. So we are not listening to the body. We are trying to suppress the signs of disease by just eating the pills and thinking it'll go away. It will not go away with pills. You've got to understand the underlying problem and change your lifestyle, whether it's stress related or over usage of something. Yeah. So you're basically putting your body in stress through either a thinking process or your work pressure, or an ingredient which you are eating, and you've got to go to the cause of that and alleviate that from your body. And the reason that right on the top I said I like my deep sleep. I tune myself, and I got that from my parents, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And I think the sleep is the best thing that happens to a human. And if we don't sleep well, we will not reboot ourselves. Yeah. It's like driving an electric car. If you don't charge overnight, yeah, next morning you will not be able to drive it. Very simple. So I think the human body works exactly like that. So you've got to make sure that you're well rested and you understand your body well. And if there is an underlying problem, adjust your lifestyle, cure it through your lifestyle rather than popping pills in your mouth.
Can you give us a sense of, or how you describe your kind of purpose as Gusto? Where is it that you're trying to get to?
So the vision really is to be the most loved way to eat dinner. So it's all about feeding families across the UK, from offering the best possible price point from £2.98, including free delivery, which is market leading, to offering the most choice. So today we offer 55 recipes. No one else offers this level of choice. If you like 10-minute meals, if you like family friendly, if you like Joe Wiggs, you know, if you like pizza night, we've got you covered. Yeah. But also convenience, you know, we offer the fastest delivery. And then from a purpose point, our purpose really is every meal leaves the planet better off. So a very, very long-term sustainable mission. You know, we're taking the 10, 20, 30 year time horizon. Overnight success takes 10 years. So very, very long-term focus. And to achieve what we're trying to achieve, we're really, really obsessed about harnessing the power of technology. We build automated factories. We build personalization so that you should never see the menu I'm seeing. Everyone should see a different menu. You know, Gusto really should be great for every family, but in a very different way, tailoring towards your circumstances. Gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan, you name it.
What do you see as some of the biggest challenges in food and drink, and within those challenges, where perhaps are some of the opportunities for Gusto?
So one of the topics I'm most passionate about is personalized food and personalized propositions, especially around healthcare. Yeah. So if you think about health, for the last 50 years, people have been popping pills, and that's been considered health. For the next 50 years, health is all about fitness, food, mindfulness. So we're at this inflection point where people and their relationship with health is changing fundamentally. So if you look at Gusto today, Gusto is seen as a food company, but in 10 years, Gusto might be seen as a health company.
Yeah.
Because if we have customization, personalization, we have hundreds of recipes to choose from, and you only see what really matters for you. And maybe Gusto will take into account your genetic disposition and your lifestyle choices, and then really says, oh, you know, you're low iron, you should really avoid this and this food, and instead you should eat this because it boosts your energy. I think we can support families so much more, not just around togetherness and convenience, but around health and feeling great and feeling, you know, like life is fantastic and unlocking people's potential. So I think that's one of the biggest trends. One of the biggest challenges in the industry is personalizing propositions means you need very, very speedy fulfillment capabilities, and you need automated fulfillment capabilities. So you're kind of moving away from this old school, oh, let's just send, you know, 1,000 pizzas into Tesco and see if they sell, to, oh, this customer wants X, can we manufacture it within, you know, 1 day, so it's tailored for that one person. And if you think about it, the crazy thing is, for the first time in history, the bigger the company is, the more you can actually personalize, because you can afford to, you know, understand customer trends, you see clusters, and you have automated fulfillment capabilities. So it's very, very exciting. I think that is one of the biggest trends to play out. And I think for customers, it will be enormously powerful to unlock those health benefits.
Tell me about the farming system. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that and how it works.
I saw a talk by, it was on silver pasture, and I didn't really know what I was doing, so I just went along this talk, and there's a really quietly spoken guy from upstate New York, and silver pasture is essentially using, basically it's what they used to do, but using trees as a way of grazing animals. So you basically graze animals in woods.
Yeah.
And there's a chap called Gabriel, really quiet spoken conservationist. Now he's a farmer in upstate New York. And basically he had a load of sheep, and it was a real horrible drought conditions in his field. So he had no choice but to stick his sheep in the woods. Yeah. And they thrived. And because in the woods, it's so secluded, and you know, the hose system works, the soil works, everything works. So his sheep absolutely thrive. So he's then basically pioneered silver pasture and talks a lot about it. So my confidence was low, like, how can I try and compete with farmers? How can I ever think that I can farm? So I went down to see Chris Jones, and Chris Jones has been doing it for a long time, like 50 years. And I sort of a friend of a friend got me a meeting. I went down and I was quite nervy, because he's just, you know, someone with huge charisma, and like, just a larger life guy. And as soon as I got there, he said, right, I'm not going to waste your time. He said, right, I'm going to sum up everything I've learned in farming in 50 years in one sentence. What do you think? And I'm like, okay, like that. And he said, if you look after nature, the flavour will look after itself. And I was like, I mean, almost like hairs on the back of my neck going up now, because if I look at nature and basically try and get nature working, then naturally that will mean that I can get flavour, you know? And I'm like, so then I was suddenly like, I think I can do that. So then since then, it's been a question of, how do I work with nature and the sheep? How do I get the sheep to help nature, and how do I get nature to help the sheep?
Yeah. And
quite clearly, silver pasture was the thing. So I basically approached Mum and my stepdad, who's part of the farm, and I said, Mum, right, you know, we've got this land, it's been in the family 400 years, I want to plant some trees. And Mum's like, no way. I'm like, right, okay. And I could just tell she, you know, and I was like, right, okay, which is fair enough, you know, you're planting trees, it's just going to change. But we basically had a 10 acres of wood, we called it MASH. And basically, I think when my granddad was given incentives to improve the land, he drained it, and all the water from there went straight into this area of woodland and just totally made it into a huge bog. And I suddenly like just saw the wood, and I'm like, I might go and have a look in there. Like, this is quite. I came to a bit where there was like, it was dry and it was a clearing, and I was just looking around. I was suddenly like, wait a minute, I think this is ancient coppice. This is silver pasture. I don't need to worry about the fields. I basically have got a complete silver pasture. I'm just going to have to work quite hard sorting it. So that was, so the whole Chris Jones thing, and, you know, it was just all these little things. So as soon as I realised I had, this was only in November, and I basically just cleared a section, did coppice, what I hope were hazel trees. I'd say semi-coppice, and the reason I've done it is to create light. So light comes down, and then you just get an increase in biodiversity. But the main reason I've done it is I believe that you need to have sheep grazing all year round. I think it's very important this is where I get a bit crazy, but I think, for example, you know, the ground gets very wet in the winter, but if you graze it really carefully, then you can, I think it's particularly important to get the worms. You need to basically feed the worms. I mean, this is all things related to regenerative agriculture and stuff, so it might be a separate subject, but essentially the coppice is there originally, either if there's a drought, so if we have a drought, I can stick the sheep in, but for me, more importantly, if the fields are too wet in winter, they actually call it a poor man's barn. Like one crazy story, we had a sheep called Hopalong. He's still alive now. He's a wether, so he's been like a castrated male. And he came to us last year with the worst foot. You know, we were buying terrible sheep, and his foot was in such a terrible state. And we were doing all sorts of things to try and heal it. And it got to like November last year, and it was just, you just wouldn't go. And I'm like, we're going to have to, you know, he'd become a bit of a pet really, but, you know, he was in pain. I just didn't want it to go on any longer. But I thought, right, so we just, anyway, at that point, I stuck him in the poor man's barn for like about a week. And when Hopalong went in, he was this little sad little disheveled, you know, just sorry state of a sheep. And then I went in there a week later, and there's this sheep looking at me like as if it was going to kill me, literally stamping its foot. And I'm like, I haven't got a sheep like that. And I was like, yeah, that's Hopalong.
Yeah.
So within 1 week of going in the coppice, I think there's crazy stuff happening with bacteria. I think they've got a choice of diet.
If you were to catapult yourself 10 years into the future and looking back, what do you hope to have achieved in that time?
I mean, obviously my promises that I made, I would hope that I've done, you know, that would be my main thing really. You know, if I've kept those, then that means everything else is in place. Like we've got about 100 members of our family in the same graveyard. Everybody's in there. And one of them is yeoman. So basically our family were yeoman. Yeoman, Y-E-O-M-A-N, which is basically like, you know, working on behalf of a big estate.
Yeah.
So I'd quite like Yeoman on there, Y-A-W-M-A-N. So I think if I'm buried in there and it says Yeoman, I'd actually quite like that. But if I can use Co-Yor, like, and again, it's very specific to that part of them. If I could use that to get a lot of young people farming